Hello and welcome to a 1v1 game between Demu and Lash. Spawning in on the left side, it is going to be Demu playing as the Byzantines in pink, and to the north it is going to be Lash playing as the Byzantines as well with the color green. Now we are right after a patch over here, which means that we had some balance changes when it comes to most of these new civilizations, including the Byzantines. And one of those changes were that they spawn with 100 stone now. And that means that you can actually justify getting early cisterns a lot better. You see, Lash already has one cistern, but when he brings back all this stone, he's going to be able to afford a second cistern immediately as well. In the meantime, Demu is dropping his second cistern too. You see, he has taken 60 stone or so. Second cistern lagging behind a little here for Lash. He does have the stone, but he hasn't yet committed to it. Okay, there it is. Second cistern coming in for both of these players now. Now, the map that we're playing on is Dry Arabia. A fairly even spawn, I would say. Both of these players have well-wallable bases. In particular, this choke point, and this one is very nice here for Lash. His right flank is a little exposed, but he's got a lot of resources tucked away at the back. This gold mine, the hunt, little forest as well. If he walls off this corner, he's gonna have a lot of safe resources to work with. Side note is that Lash has this little market in the corner, and if he goes for a mercenary camp right next to it, he can actually get Demu, which could be intriguing for him. In the meantime, Demu has a similar map layout, nice gold mine tucked away at the back, stone as well, relatively safe. His left flank is a little exposed, this forest being kind of far away. He does have a market in the corner as well. This market allows him to go Mangadai and Desert Traders, out of which only desert raiders actually make a lot of sense for him. So I'm actually curious if he's going to go for any of those. I don't think that's going to be the case, but he might prove me wrong. Now, one thing that's different from Lash's base here for Demu is that his hunts are all in the middle of nowhere, and he doesn't really have a safe deposit to work with. He does have a nice second berry patch, though, so if he walls off this corner, he's going to have a lot of extra food, and of course olive oil to work with. No major shenanigans in Dark Age over here for either of these players. Very standard opening. And we should have identical Feudal Age times for the two players. Now, of course, the first big decision point when it comes to landmark choice is what landmark you're aging up with. And you see, there is a big deviation between the two players here. It is the Winery, replaced twice by Lash, actually. Whereas Demu is going up with the Hippodrome. Now, the Hippodrome is going to give Demu some leverage and some raiding potential with the Horsemen, and that's something that he can use to throw off the build of Lash here in Feudal Age. In fact, he's going to scout the Winery, so you should know that Lash is playing for a more passive and more defensive build. So he's going to have raiding potential, actually quite a lot of raiding potential. Also sees the Stone Mine. The fact that we're seeing a mining camp on the Stone Mine makes me think that Lash is going to be pretty heavy on stone. He could either be going super heavy into cisterns, or he could also be thinking about the second town center here. He only has 2 villagers on stone, that's insufficient for a second TC, so I'm leaning towards cisterns for the time being, but we'll have to see. I would love to see some walls here from Lash. I feel like especially once he scouts the Hippodrome from his counterpart, he needs to make sure that he cannot get raided easily. And one way to accomplish this would be to get some walls here. Some walls to the gold mine would also be neat, especially because now walls snap to resource deposits like gold mines. So you can actually get some walls up over here, and that prevents the cavalry from running in. You could even just do little walls like this and this to prevent the cavalry from running directly onto the villagers, give you some extra buffer and some time to fall back. Feudal Age in for Demu. He's going to open with Horsemen. Now, Triumph also underwent a couple of changes over here, but it's still one of the more powerful Feudal Age abilities. I'm actually curious if we're going to see Expilatores coming in from Demu. I think if you go heavy on the Horsemen, it's definitely a tech that's worth it. Only 20 seconds to research it, not an expensive tech either. Gives a nice little boost for your Horsemen against villagers. Now, Lash is heavy on wood. He also moved a lot of villagers to stone, so this is going to be a second DC build. This would be a neat spot for a second town center, but I feel like Lash might need to be very, very cautious with that second TC placement because of the horsemen coming in. Now, he is going to have a barracks come in, so he's going to have a couple of Limitani. But still, whenever you don't have that much map control and you want to go for a second TC, you will probably have issues placing it to the most optimal spot. Now, seeing that his opponent is going for a second TC, Demu needs to make something happen. He needs to either delay this, or, more importantly, start picking villagers, because otherwise, he's going to fall behind in villager count. Now, because of this investment into the barracks, the second TC actually gets delayed very heavily here for Lash. You see, he's still only at 250 wood, and this is good news for Demu. It means that he can build up his horseman numbers more, and it makes it a lot easier to punish any kind of expansion out of the base of Lash. This is also a juicy spot for Lash, by the way, Boar and Hunt together. But I feel like that's a spot that he simply cannot secure right now. Second TC coming into a very, very defensive spot. Kind of what you expect for a position that Lash is in right now. But this is not an optimal TC placement by any means. It doesn't secure any excess resources, as Demu is charging in with Triumph. Villagers will be fighting back over here. Another villager gets picked, and this is exactly what Triumph is so powerful because of. When you pop this Triumph, especially combined with Expilatores, these horsemen become beasts when it comes to raiding villagers. And in a blink of an eye, they were able to pick off 2 vills here from Lash. He's going to be able to make up for them fairly quickly, though. But 2 villagers picked, combined with the fact that this town center is also not really able to secure additional resources, is a big win for Demu. Especially because he's playing a semi-fast castle here, something that we commonly see from players playing the Hippodrome. You get a couple of horsemen out, they do have great raiding potential, they slow down the build order of the enemy. And while the opponent is distracted, you can go up to Castle Age yourself, get yourself a couple of Cataphracts, and if you have the Cistern of the First Hill, you can play into those Cataphract raiding style games in Castle Age. Or you can also go up with the Golden Horn Tower and just double down on army production that way. Range coming in here for Lash as well. Limitani numbers increasing. But you see, second town center just now kicking in for Lash. He does have a lot of olive oil income, or he will have a lot of olive oil income from the winery. But that's something that will take some time to show. Demu still running circles around the enemy. I really feel like some walls would have been useful here for Lash. His opponent is running circles around him. And if he just had walls over here, it would be suddenly a lot more difficult for Demu to rotate. Some walls here, and some walls maybe to the stone mine, would already prevent Demu from rotating around easily. He would need to run into the range of these town centers every once in a while. It would make it easier for the Limitani to chase down the horsemen. Demu is going to be on the way to Castle Age. He is actually dropping a 3rd Cistern. He's a little low on gold here. That's actually something that's bottlenecking his Castle Age right now. But given that he's going to be outnumbered on the eco, once again horsemen coming in, picking off another villager Triumph coming in clutch as well. Villagers with a quick wall prevent potential disaster over here, but again, Demu is doing so much with only a handful of units. His destroyed value is actually up in the skies. 1350, that actually feels way more than what I would expect. He killed 3 villagers, sure thing, but the destroyed value here must be off for Demu. There's just no way that he killed 1350 resources worth of value, right? Golden Horn Tower is the landmark of choice, something that Demu loves to use. Does have a mercenary house coming in as well in double barracks. Could be Limitani, but more likely that we're going to see Varangians here. Limitani is the unit of choice here for Lash, supported by some archers. And he doesn't really have anything that deals well with a combination of Varangians plus mercenaries as well. Lash getting close to Castle Age himself, though. Definitely decent timing, but he doesn't really have a major eco lead right now. He does have a lot of olive oil to work with, He's actually getting the Western Mercenary contract. Now, he could go heavy on the longbows, but they take a long time to build. Landsknecht, on the other hand, is just not the unit that you want to go for early Castle Age. It's way too fragile, and it's just going to die to most of the units that Demu will bring out, to be honest. Luckily for Lash, Demu isn't playing super aggressive over here, and he takes his own time as well. He actually went with the Eastern contract, Eastern that is, I think, and he's going to have access to Camel Riders. Now, this is a lovely combo. He can go into like Limitani against Cavalry, supported by Camel Riders, some Varangians, and he's also mixing in a couple of Javelin Throwers. This is such a diverse army composition, and one of the remarkable things with this build is that you can get yourself a very diverse army in early Castle Age. Nice little raid once again by Demu, exploiting these villagers on the flank, completely undefended. He now has 4 villager kills here. Limitani arrived just in time, though. Another villager falls, but most of the cavalry from Demu is now gone. So, when you look at the stages of the game, as Demu is now up to 5 cisterns, so he has the plus 25% boost. More importantly, he does have a plus 100% military production speed as well. So these units train very quickly here for Demu. But anyway, the thing I wanted to highlight is that when you look at this stage of the game, usually players don't have super diverse compositions just yet, because they do not have the resources to mass a lot of units from different types. Versatile unit compositions become a thing in like mid to late Castle Age, when players are able to facilitate the mass production of multiple types of units. But with the Byzantines, given that you can get some units out for olive oil, combined with the fact that you're getting some freebies from the Golden Horn Tower, and of course you're also spending your resources, you can actually facilitate the production of a very diverse army, and that's what we're seeing from Demu. He's going to have some heavy infantry, the Varangians, he's going to have some Limitani, some Javelin Throwers as well, and he actually went for a veterancy, so he could actually get some Camel Riders as well, if he feels threatened by enemy cavalry. At the same time, we're going to have the Golden Horn Tower in as well for Lash, but given that he went for the Western contract, he's going to play longbows with them. Having some housing issues right now. 2TC is slowly kicking in for him, but one way that Demu can offset that deficit in terms of villagers is by collecting relics, and he does have a monastery already. At the same time, I don't see a monastery, but what's more alarming for Lash is that he's still on Cistern level 2. Demu is up to level 5. So right now this is a plus 25% versus plus 10% getter rate buff. That is substantial. Eco count is still slightly in the favor of Lash, and overall eco is probably even-ish. Wood count isn't spectacular for Lash, and that's kind of salvaging it for Demu. But eventually, Lash should be able to pull ahead. So Demu needs to collect relics to offset this. And that's exactly what he's doing. You see he already has a bunch of relics on the list of things to collect. Longbows are in, but no veterancy for them just yet. Lash needs to get that, and it will take some more time because he has another batch of longbows in queue. He finally has these walls up, makes it a little bit more... Oh no, that's terrible. He's building this gate just as the enemy arrives, so he kind of replaces this wall section with a weak gate. Luckily for him, Demu turned around just in time to prevent a disaster. Longbow numbers increasing quickly here, but it takes 1 minute to get the veterancy contract on this building. I'm actually surprised that we're not seeing a switch into Dialecticus here for Lash, because he needs these upgrades. Steeled Arrow, the veterancy contract, so this is where you could leverage the ability of the Cistern to buff your research rate. Demu is also on a second TC, he just dropped it, so he's trying to catch up villager-wise. And honestly, he's not that much behind, as he's also diving deep into the enemy base here. Does have a lot of Javelin Throwers, something that will be useful against both the longbows and the crossbows. Houses being torched here is actually very valuable, given that Lash is already strained on population. Lash needs to build a lot more houses. And this is problematic because you're trying to get mercenaries out in large batches, and the Golden Horn Tower is also something that consistently produces units. You need that population space. Limitani now moving in, supported by the Varangians, couple of Camels mixed in as well. They will be great to tank up some arrow fire. Javelin throwers from Demu doing a great job picking off the longbows, and reinforcements are just lacking here for Lash. He's getting pushed all the way back into his base, and those Javelin throwers just coming in clutch, dealing with everything that Lash has. Those longbows never really able to get any value for themselves. Demu, he is standing strong over here, leveraging a level 5 Cistern system, as well as those Eastern Mercenaries. Secures the game over here. And when you look back at this game, I think one of the big takeaways is how powerful the Hippodrome build can be. When you use that cavalry well, when you exploit the Triumph ability well, you're able to slow down the enemy quite a bit, slow down this 2TC build or any kind of Feudal Age build, to be honest. And then when you get to Castle Age, you can leverage Javelin throwers and Camels from the Mercenary House and the Golden Horn Tower, something that's actually very devastating when combined with mass infantry. And this composition is not super expensive. The Limitani aren't super expensive. Varangians aren't super pricey either for the Byzantines. And when you combine them with a bunch of Javelin throwers that pick off the archers, this composition is difficult to deal with. Lash not being able to take it down in this specific game. Hopefully you've enjoyed this cast. If you did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Those metrics help me greatly. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next cast.